everyone, my name's Jaret Reddick, this is the It's Not a Phase podcast, and we've just hit the episode 100 milestone. My guest on this episode is Bowling for Soup frontman Jaret Reddick, who all the OGs may remember from the very first episode. The band is celebrating 2 milestones this year, the 20th anniversary of their album Hangover You Don't Deserve, and their 30th anniversary as a band. We talk all about that and loads more, but before we get into it, please consider supporting the podcast by hitting subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you don't miss out on any future episodes. You can also drop a like or a 5-star rating wherever you listen to this, follow the podcast on social media, or if you'd like, you can join the Patreon or you can pick up something from the merch store. You can find everything at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Now let's dive right into my chat with Jaret. What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining me on this episode of It's Not a Phase, where I'm joined again by Jaret Reddick, who came on episode 1, and now on episode 100. Thanks very much for coming back on, dude. How's it going?
Man, I'm doing great. How did I end up on episode 1? How did that happen? What did we just connect on the internet?
Well, your PR guy Jamie just swindled it for me, I guess.
Oh,
And
wow. Jamie threw you a bump. That's awesome. Well, I'm happy. Thank you for having me back. Because a lot of times if I'm early in the podcast and then it takes off, they don't want me back. I'm just kidding. It's good to be back, man. I'm glad things are going good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, always happy to have you on. And yeah, that's a milestone for me. But you guys have got a much bigger, well, 2 milestones, I guess, this year. One of them being the 20th anniversary of the album Hangover You Don't Deserve. Wow, man, like 20 years.
20 years of Hangover You Don't Deserve and 30 years of Bowling for Soup. And, just have no idea how it all went by this fast. But I mean, it's funny. The Hangover thing seems to have gone by really fast. Bowling for Soup seems like that's just what I've done my whole life, you know? And so but I'm super proud of us and super thankful to the loyalty of the fans that is the reason that we're still here.
Yeah. I mean, not to make it sound even older, but the band is almost as old as me, so.
Yeah. Almost being the operative word. Song number 2 on Hangover You Don't Deserve.
A great song, yeah.
Actually, maybe it's song number 1. I don't know.
I think it might be the opener, but.
I think that might be.
Yeah. It was meant to be the first single, wasn't it? But 1985 kind of crept in at the last minute.
That's right. That's what happened. Exactly. 1985 sort of just showed up at our doorstep and we took it in and we fed it and we bathed it and we brought it to life and made it our own and just put that out. And now it's just a grown song.
Yeah. It can't take in many forms of its own. Like, so many people are doing like their own versions of like, an updated like 2002 version or anything like that, which is crazy. I bet you could never have imagined that would have happened when you were putting that song together.
No, it's funny. It's a lot like viral videos or even TikTok videos. It's like the ones that you think people would be like spoofing or remaking and all of that stuff. It's never those. Like, because to me, High School Never Ends seems like the obvious one that people would be on and doing and all of that. But 1985 has so many remakes and I love it so much because you have to get pretty creative because, to get to make sure that you're on topic or whatever, and so I love it. It's a blast. And I try and repost everyone that's sent to me and just get such a big kick out of it. We've even featured on a couple of them. And just always, they always make me smile.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 20 years. How do you kind of feel about like when that album, how was that putting it together? What can you kind of remember that experience in the studio and putting this collection of songs together, which was, well, it's your 5th album, I think, isn't it? 5th album?
Yeah, so it actually, if you count albums, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 7, but we had 2 EPs so it's 4 albums. 4 albums and 2 EPs before this. There wasn't a lot of pressure this record because we got signed in 99. Let's Do It for Johnny came out. It didn't do all that great, but it did well in the UK. and the bitch song was just a huge success over there for us. Summer of '69 got airplay on Radio One, and really the UK is what kept America even interested in continuing on with the project. And then Drunk Enough to Dance came out, and we had Girl the Bad Guys Want was a hit, Punk Rock 101, minor hit, but big hit on Radio Disney here in the States. And then, of course, Grammy nomination happened. And so as we were going into, the writing and all of that of Hangover, like I said, there wasn't really a lot of pressure as far as like the songwriting is concerned. It was more along the lines of getting pressure of how they wanted us to make their record. Like
Right.
the label was coming in with all these different producers, and Butch Walker was too busy to produce the album, and he had done Drunk Enough to Dance. And so basically I went to write with Butch throughout during the process, and we ended up writing almost Trucker Hat, almost in Trucker Hat. Oh, and Last Call Casualty. And at that time, I was just like, I just loved his studio so much. I was so comfortable there. We were comfortable there, having made a record. And I was just like, man, can we just come back here and make the record, and you just produce the singles, and we'll do the rest with Rusty Cobb, who was his engineer at the time.
Hmm.
And that's what we did. And so, but yeah, the writing of the record, like I said, not a huge amount of pressure on me. I did a bunch of co-writes on that one because I had the first co-write I'd ever done. So for the listener, a co-write is when you write a song with somebody else. You come in with an idea, or they come in with an idea, or you pull one out of the air and you write a song. At the end of the day, you were co-writers of the song.
Hmm.
First one I'd ever did was Girl the Bad Guys Want, and that was a massive hit.
Wow.
So I went into Hangover You Don't Deserve just trying to do as many as I could. Just anybody that would write with me, I would write with them. And so some great co-writes came out of that. Friends of Mine is a co-write with the guys from the band Fastball. I already mentioned the Butch Walker ones. I wrote a song called Ridiculous that's on the album with my buddy Casey, who lives here in Dallas and owns a studio here. And Zach Malloy and I wrote Ohio, Come Back to Texas, and Two Seater. And he and I would continue to write songs for Bowling for Soup until present. And he actually produced and co-wrote my country record. So it was a cool time. There were a lot of relationships starting then. We were definitely learning a lot about who we were as a band. We just still had the fire. We were over the sophomore hump, of the major label thing, because we were on album 3. And it was a good time to be in Bowling for. I mean, it still is, but we were definitely firing on all cylinders for sure.
Yeah. You must have been like so comfortable as well, like obviously having the experience of creating an album. You've already done that, a few times prior. You
Yeah,
can go in,
I
it's like,
mean,
oh, I know the drill.
yeah, and the comfort of going back to Ruby Red, where which doesn't even exist anymore there, but where we had done so much stuff before. And working there at that studio, and even though Butch wasn't there, the staff was still there, and it's just we just felt really at home there. We felt at home in Atlanta. This is the second of 3 records that we made there. So yeah, definitely again, it was a really, really good spot to be in. The big thing that had changed for me outside of the band that was a new wrench in things, and I don't mean it to sound like that, because she's the best thing that ever happened to me, but my daughter was born during the Drunk Enough to Dance days. Actually, she was born the day Girl the Bad Guys Want got nominated for a Grammy. So now I'm off making a record, and I've got a little baby at home and a wife with a little baby at home. And so that a whole new element. So I think it worked out really good that we went to Atlanta, that we were really comfortable, that I was comfortable in the writing, that all of that was not that stressful, because, I was having to balance a whole new situation at home.
Yeah. Are you revisiting many of these songs on this? You're doing a lot of touring this year. Are you going
Yeah.
back to a lot of those songs that maybe you've rarely touched over the years?
Yeah. So some of them we've never played live.
Right.
And we'll be doing the whole album on the US tour. So starting in July, we'll be doing several months of just playing this entire record. and it's 18 songs. So that's ridiculous. So, but we're gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some albums that aren't even like half that many songs on an album. So,
Yeah, it is a thing that I really wasn't that smart back then. I was really more, and it worked to the fans' favor because I was really into value, and I was like, I don't want to put out a 11-song record like that. I want people to get to have a lot of material and blah blah blah. And you know, I didn't, there's no forethought into any of that of like, oh my God, we're going to have to play all these songs. We're going to be successful enough to need to play this whole album one day, Like, so anyway, yeah, I'm racking my brain trying to learn Down for the Count.
what's it been like, going back and practicing those songs to make sure that they are tour ready? How's it been going back to them songs?
Well, we haven't done it as a band yet because we still have a couple of months. We'll actually be meeting next month, 4 times. And it's about half, I think it's 7 songs that we have to learn, brush up on. Because the good thing about that record is we did actually demo all the songs. So we have played them all before.
Right.
Because there's albums now that come out where like we've literally never performed them before ever. Because it was now I write all the songs here in this room, and then Gary hears them the day he's going to play drums on them, and then Chris and Rob put their stuff on it, and it comes back here, and it gets finished here and in the studio with Linus, our producer, and then it's out in the world. So things work a lot differently these days. But like I said, it's cool to look back and go, well, at least we knew them at one point. We know we can at least play them.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like it'd be a bit silly to create songs that you don't know how to play or couldn't
Yeah.
play, but
Yeah, or you couldn't play. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I think we're okay right now. If we get into Sorry for Partying, we're gonna have to get a keyboard player. But let's. Hey, that would be a good problem to have.
Yeah. That's a few years away yet, so that's
We're
that's
good.
future
Yeah,
Jared problem, yeah.
yeah. It's quite a ways away.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of the other bigger milestone, obviously the 30th anniversary as a band. Um, yeah, crazy. Congratulations on such a milestone. Like, holding the band together for that long
Mhm.
is no mean feat.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm proud of us, and I'm like I said, I'm proud of the fans and thankful to the fans, and that sort of longevity it's unheard of in most relationships. There's families that don't talk to one another and within 30 years of being a family.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for sure.
Yeah, like some businesses and some like relationships don't even last that long. And, the band is both a business and you're maintaining these relationships and friendships with these people for 3 decades. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy. We've had a couple of member changes over the years, but it's everything. It's fine. There's 6 total members, and everybody's good. But even our crew guys, we've had crew guys that have been here for 25 years. We've got crew guys that have been here for 20, 15, 10. It's a big family, and I honestly I wouldn't have it any other way.
yeah. What do you think if you could go back in time to 1994, Jaret, just starting up this band, and you told him where the band is today and what you've achieved? What do you
Mhm.
think he would say? How do you think he would react?
I know he would be surprised because 1994 Jaret was just coming out of college, and I owned my own business, and I was pretty much setting up shop there in the small town of Wichita Falls, and really didn't have aspirations to make it big, so to speak. Like I to me, I just liked playing music, and it was something to do to keep us all out of trouble, in
Hmm.
our young adulthood. Um, and so I would definitely say that he would be in disbelief. I think if it were explained to 94 Jaret about like how he ran it, like, hey, dude, you ran this like a business, and you took care of those around you, and you know, you always made sure that, marketing and the merch and all of this stuff. I think at that point he'd be like, that does sound like me. But yeah, I think, seeing the world as many times as we have, and being able to play the biggest shows we've ever played, in my early 50s, it would have been very hard to believe for sure.
Mm. Was there a point then where that you can remember where it changed from being something that you were just doing kind of for fun and, just enjoying being in a band to where like, what, this could be something that I do for, my life?
Uh, in fact, there's pictures of it. I have pictures of the night. We were in Abilene, Texas. It was 1996. We were playing at a radio show there. We were getting a little bit of airplay there on one of our songs, from Rock on Honorable Ones, our second full length record, and we played with a couple of other bands. One of them had a radio hit in major cities, but was really killing there. And there were 4,000 people there, and they were singing all the words to our songs, and it was just an amazing experience, amazing show. And we were still very green, but yes, that night I told the guys, I just said, I think we can do this. If you guys will trust me, and we all put in 100%, and we decide this is what we want to do, I think we can do it.
Mm.
And more rules came pretty quickly. It was definitely a deal where it was like, this has to be number one. You can't take nights off for anything ever, and and then little things like if we get invited to an after party, you have to go,
Yeah.
and shit like that. Like, if we're gonna build this, we're gonna do it one person at a time, and that's the way that we operated for, I mean, more years than I can count. 9 years in the van. And I think even after the van, we were still having to go to after parties. But
Mm.
you know, I I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember what I ate that day. I remember every little thing about that day, and how things changed after that, as far as just the way that we were doing things, the way that we were operating, the drive that we had. And honestly, that's sort of when our first member change became pretty obvious it was going to happen, because Lance, our drummer, he was married, and really the touring thing just wasn't his thing. And we were going out for months at a time and sleeping in the van, and it wasn't the greatest existence. For the rest of us, it was the best ever.
Yeah.
But for him, he missed home, and so that's pretty much what, not only what started us in the direction of this is what we're going to do, but it started us in the direction of like, we're going to have to find another guy that is willing to do this with us.
Yeah. I guess it's so different as well. Like if you were to go past, back to past Jaret, like how a band operates in today's climate, like, you've got things like TikTok
Yeah.
and Facebook
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I guess back in those days, you had to tour all the time and, recording albums on cassettes and stuff like,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, again, that's the whole thing of why I think he would be so, like, if you were like, you're gonna make Bowling for Soup albums in your house, uh, and if you can't do something there, you just send it over the air to somebody else, and they just do it and then send you it back with that
yeah.
thing that you wanted on there. And then the best way you're gonna have to stay in touch with your audience is just turning your phone. Oh, by the way, you have a phone that's a camera, and you turn your phone that's a camera around on you, and you just do stupid shit for a minute and a half, and you put it on the internet, and more people will recognize you from that than they do from you being in Bowling for Soup, even though you're like super famous. Because it's true. But I
Yeah.
mean, I get stopped every day by, definitely every day somewhere. It doesn't matter where I am. It's someone will say something about, hey man, I love your band or whatever. And it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But it is more and more like, oh, hey dude, I follow you on TikTok. And it's just, and everybody gets such a kick out of it. Rob thinks it's the funniest thing, because he'll go, that guy doesn't even know that you're in a band.
Yeah.
And thinks he just follows you on TikTok. And so it's a weird world, man. That's for sure.
That must have been so strange the first time. Like all these years, people know you as Jaret, the guy from Born for Soup. and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, oh, you're Jaret from TikTok.
Yeah, it happened to me about a year ago for the first time that happened.
Yeah,
And we're driving in the country band, and we were in the town that we were going to play in, but we stopped at a gas station, and I walked in, and this guy goes, "Hey, I follow you on TikTok. You did the video about this and this and this." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, that's cool. What are you doing here?" And I go, "Well, I'm in a band." He goes, "Oh, yeah?" He goes, "What band?" I go, "Well, I'm in Bowling for Soup." He goes, "You're in Bowling for Soup?" And I go, "Yeah, but that's not the band that's playing here tonight."
yeah,
The whole conversation was like, "Well, you just wait and see if I'm going to say something funny. And if, if I'm singing, you just go to the next video." I don't understand how this works, but that's super common. Somebody will just come up and be like, "Hey, can I take a picture with you? I watch your TikToks." And so, I don't know. I don't hate it. It's
yeah,
To me, that would have made more sense to 94 Jaret if you'd have said, you're going to you're going to you're a big part of your job is going to be just making minute to 2 minute long snippets of just being silly or funny, informative, or talking about life experience.
yeah,
And I would have been like, "Oh yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds great." Because I was a little theater kid, and I would have been like, "That's fucking right at my," because I think TikTok was made for me. It's so perfect for me. It's my personality. It's exactly the amount of time I really want to talk,
yeah.
you
Yeah, you
know?
don't want to go off on tangents, do you? You want to kind of like cut to the
Yeah,
chase, and it kind of forces you to.
because I will go off on a tangent. And I like the time limit. Like I
Yeah,
I enjoy that. Because if you listen to my podcast, Rockstar Dad Show, I'll go start on something, and then I'll be on other, and then it takes me 25, 30 minutes to get back to what I was talking about in the first place.
yeah,
Now, a lot of that's by design because it keeps you interested in the show,
hmm,
but at the same time, that's just how I am in person.
yeah, yeah. Well, you've had such a great career as a band, like 30 years, still going, well, still achieving new heights, which we can talk about in a minute. But as with any band's career, there's obviously going to be lows occasionally.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think has helped to have such a resilient career and the band be so resilient over, like I say, 3 decades as a band?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to note that we did have our low. We've had lows. We haven't had a lot of big lows. I mean, we had there was definitely a time in like the mid 2000s where we weren't really the darlings of the UK press anymore. In fact, everybody kind of just started saying we were stupid and doing the same thing over and over again. And although it was short lived, it was very confusing because you know we just felt like we were doing the same thing, and like all of a sudden, the same writers, or at least same publications that had just been writing these amazing things about us, were writing things that really weren't very nice. Now, I wouldn't say that's the lowest of the low, because what we did then was just keep doing what we were doing. And obviously you get to a point where, as a band, where you weather the storm and they can't write anything bad about you anymore. Because what do you say about a band that has 30 years of longevity, more fans now than we ever have, bigger shows now than we ever have? Like, if you come at us talking negatively, you're kind of looking like the stupid one.
Yeah,
And so even if you don't like our music, that's one thing. But if it's you don't like our band, or you don't like our vibe, or you don't like us, or whatever it is, then obviously there's something that doesn't make a lot of sense. But then 2013 hit, and Eric had just gone through a divorce, and I started going through mine, and I had to to fight over custody with my kids, of my kids. And I, quite frankly, was going to break the band up, because I was either going to save my relationship, and to do that, I needed to stay home, or I was going to fight so that I had my children, and I was going to stay home and raise them.
hmm,
And so that's the farewell tour for the UK. I actually put it on Instagram recently, the very meeting that we had when I told the guys that that's what we were going to do. And that lasted through that year or whatever, and then I came out of that, you know realizing that I needed music, I needed my band, I needed the guys, that I could make it work, that the relationship was already far past saving, that I could be a dad and still do what I love, and that would be the better example for my children. And so we came out of that going full fucking speed. Like that, it was like we were shot out of a cannon 2014 through, the next 4 years or so. Um, and then obviously Eric didn't want to tour anymore, and has his own stuff going on in his life, and moved to a different city and got remarried, and so Rob came into the band, and that was another like it's like you're playing one of those car games and you can hit the nitro button, you
Oh yeah.
know?
Yeah.
That's how I explain those two things. It's like we got to the leader of the pack or whatever, and then Rob joins the band, and again, nothing against Eric. Eric was great, and he's one of probably the best singer I've ever heard sing in my life, and amazing best musician in the band. But Rob came in young and full of piss and fire and was ready to fucking go, and was just like, "You guys are lazy. You've been playing the same set for this many years, and you're not doing this song, and this isn't fun, and blah blah blah." And not in a malicious way, but like in a, "Hey, we should be doing this and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. This is fun." You know what I mean? And it was like somebody hit that nitro button, and now it's 2024, and like we still are in full blast.
Yeah.
It's just been crazy.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel like your perspective and outlook on the band kind of changed over those years then?
Uh, I mean, my perspective and outlook over everything hasn't changed a lot. I mean, I get the good thing about us is, I think all of us have always realized that we're a sum of our parts, and no matter what someone's position in the band is, it's equally as important as the other one. And I think even my band would tell you that, even though I'm the face and the guy that does the interviews and honestly makes the decisions and all of this, all of those are things that I took upon myself, so I don't complain about it.
Hmm.
It's not a thing where I would never throw it in their face and go, "You don't do shit." I've never done that, and I wouldn't do that. And I think that's from my perspective. I think from their perspective, it's the opposite. They're not going, "Well, you fucking get all the free shoes and this and this and this, so fuck you," and blah blah blah. They don't do that because that everybody realizes what their role in the band is. And I think, just simply put, that's where a lot of bands go wrong.
Yeah.
It's not realizing, like, "Hey, okay, well, listen, if I want that same recognition that he has, then I need to start doing those things that he does." And I need to say, "Well, if I want time off to myself to be able to go do this thing that they're doing, then I need to do less of this."
Yeah.
So that's obviously putting it very, very simply, but I think that's a huge part of us. The other thing is really just understanding people's lives and how they've changed throughout the course of 30 years. We've all been through a lot in life. I've got 22, 18, and 11-year-old kids, but Rob has a baby at home, and Gary's are 12 and 7. So, he's right in the middle. We're all at different life points too, and then Chris doesn't have children, and he's really just sort of like content with his life. He just likes what he likes. He does, this is what he does every day. And I think it's important for that too, to honor that and to help each other navigate those things, to make sure that, you know, if Rob wants off for Pete's birthday, then he's just off for Pete's birthday these days,
Yeah.
like, we got to a point where we could do that, where we could just say, "Yeah, we're just not going to play on this day. We don't give a shit what it is." And it took a long time to be able to start saying no to things.
Yeah. I think that's healthy as well. Like you don't want to burn yourself out. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you've been doing this band for a long time. Like you have nothing to prove at this point, right?
That's, I think, was the blessing of 2013, because I think we were bordering on burnout anyway. And like I said, we were coming off of getting dropped from our label, and the sort of like that end of kind of not being the the pop punk princes, crowned pop punk princes or whatever that we were in the UK, and we weren't on the radio anymore in the USA. And so I feel like just getting to that low point and then coming back and realizing, listen, man, we've still got each other,
Mm.
and we've still got the fans. And you know what? We can survive, and we can just do this, just us. And that's what we've done.
Yeah. Well, 11 years later, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. Like we talk about the
Thriving.
recent
Yeah.
UK tour, Cardiff
Yeah.
date, biggest headline show ever.
Biggest headline
It's
show ever. And 3 arenas on one tour. Just came back from Canada for the first time in 15 years. 5 out of 6 shows sold out. Um, going back to Australia for the first time in many years. Anticipated sellouts there. And then, of course, U.S. tour, which will take place over the course of 4 months, but they're all in 2.5 week stints. So 2.5 weeks out, and then home, then 2.5 weeks out, then home, blah blah blah. And ticket sales going crazy, and just a happy bus, happy crew, happy band. Um, it's just, yeah, it's good. It's rewarding. It's definitely, I mean, we hurt. We have to take certain things into consideration. I found it embarrassing to talk about it first, and then I just started saying, man, it's just fucking life, but it's like, we have to make sure that we eat a good meal every day. Otherwise, we're all just shitty.
yeah,
It's like, but I mean, like so we make sure everybody has a healthy meal option every day. Like if you need to eat a vegetable, and then can drink whatever you want, eat whatever you want after that, but you got to eat something that's worth a shit, like,
yeah,
and then, it's like we're not staying up drinking until 9 o'clock in the morning every day, and we're usually in bed by 1 or 2 or 3, and then, sleep, and we don't sleep all day. We get up at a reasonable hour and fucking hang out, do our shit. And so we've made some good changes, um, as the years have gone. So we had a health scare with Gary in Cardiff last year,
mm,
and had to send him home for some medical attention. And that was a big wake up call for all of us. We're just going, man, guys, we got to fucking slow down, pay attention to ourselves. And now we take days off. We never used to take days off. We'd come over there and do 21 days in Europe without a day off. And our support bands hated us
I
for
don't
that.
blame
They
them.
liked
That's a
us.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, they liked us the rest of the way, but for that, they did not like it. But now we try and have at least one day off every week, every 8 days or so, just so that we can, because Gary's arms, he's 47 years old, at 45. He's 45 years old, he's and he and the same with mine and my hands, like I can't, my hands just won't work after about 5 or 6 days.
Mm,
So I think we're being super smart in navigating it all.
yeah. I mean, that's all part of growing up. Like, obviously, people's bodies change. You have to kind
Yeah.
of look at the signs and act accordingly to stay healthy.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. And there's tons of other aspects to all of that, but that's, those are the main ones. And but life is so different for a young dad now, because Rob can FaceTime with his son every day, and I just love it so much to see it and to see him and so happy. It's just that didn't exist for me and my 2 older kids, And so I love that being on the road is a little smaller now than it
Yeah.
was. It was not easy.
Yeah, yeah. Like you say, you're still getting these biggest shows ever, like say the Cardiff, the biggest show ever. And I guess like to an outsider, kind of like very casual fan, they'd be like, well, a band's been going for 30 years. How can they still be hitting these
Yeah.
heights? But you're still hitting heights. You're still hitting these
Yeah.
new heights, which must be like so gratifying and rewarding for you.
Well, I think some of that has to do with nostalgia. I think some of that is going to be that, like, hey, Bowling for Soup, Newfound Glory, Simple Plan, Sum 41, all of us have albums that are around 20 years old right now. So
Yeah.
there's a nostalgic aspect of that to somebody who is 38 or 42, whatever, but they're, because they were listening to it in their 20s or their late teens. There's a nostalgic aspect of it to people who are in their late 20s because that's what their parents listened to. And so it goes on and on like that. And then you've got songs like Girl the Bad Guys Want in 1985 that are in every pub pretty much every night over there in the UK. And I'm
Mm.
so grateful for that, by the way. I don't take that for granted. It's just people tell me all the time. and and send me videos of it. But and then, so I think, and then there's Phineas and Ferb that obviously adds to it. So and then there's the fact that we work really hard, continue to work really hard, just like the aforementioned bands. It's like you notice all those bands that I mentioned are still out there and still doing great. And obviously Sum 41 on their farewell tour, which is real, by the
Mm.
way. Um, and but still, all the rest of the bands that I mentioned out there, um, kicking ass. And so says something for the genre too. I think
Yeah.
pop punk is one of those ones that you'll just kind of always go back to, like 80s metal or 90s hip hop. Like I feel like that'll just always be like a comfortable pillow that you can lay your head on when you've had enough of whatever the fuck is going on these days.
Yeah. Do you have any other goals as a band that you would like to achieve that you've not quite got to yet?
You know, we said several years ago that we were done discovering things.
Mm.
There's still markets that we know we would kill in. We know that we would kill in Brazil, Indonesia, probably Mexico. There's just markets that we know that we could go to, but it would definitely be, you know, dipping the toe in the water and being away from home and, no real guarantees.
Mm.
So where we found ourselves was at a place where it's like, this is the amount of time that we can be gone. And we already kind of do that. So as far as exploration is concerned, we've sort of seen and done what we're going to do.
Right.
And our goal is, and and hope is to continue to go to those places every so often and to reignite it and to have a blast with people and put on a great show. Um, so I think it's hard for me to even say that we would have any more goals because you know there's talk shows that we didn't get to do that I wish we would have. But in order for that, you have to have radio or you have to have TV, and that's just not going to happen for a band like us. So I would just say the goal would just to be to keep doing it as long as it makes sense and not run it into the ground, but to definitely, to if I would be very happy if insanely speaking, I am here talking to you in 10 years and we're just still going, I can't believe all these people still show up to see us, I mean, I think that
Yeah.
would be great. And I don't think it's that far-fetched. Um, I really don't. So, uh, I think a lot of what we do, I guess, kind of depends on what the other guys do.
Mm.
What if Blink 182 and Green Day and all those guys start breaking up, then it's going to be like, okay, what are we supposed to do? But I don't really see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned it a few times in this conversation. Like, I don't know why it is myself. Maybe you can have the perspective from your side of things, but it seems like the UK is kind of a second home for you guys. And what do you
Yeah.
think it is that, gravitates fans towards you from the UK?
Well, I think first of all, it was just an instant love affair with humor, comedy, good music, no ego. I feel like the bitch song video came out and we just looked like dudes that you could have over at your house. And um then you hear us talk and it's just we just are dudes that you could have over at your house. It's like we're not putting on a face or there's no rock stars in our band, even though I understand we're rock stars, but we don't consider ourselves to be rock stars
Not like
in
the
that.
stereotypical kind of sense of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, there's no ego. I think if you met somebody that knew me in 2003 and still knows me, they would go, "Oh yeah, he's exactly the same person." Um, and I think people sense that. I think fans can sense genuine bands, genuine people, genuinality. Is that a word? Genuine. I don't know. They can sense genuine things.
Genuinity? I don't know. I don't know.
Genuinity. I know, right? What is that word?
I don't know.
They can sense it. And so I felt like I think it's comedy. I think it's the songs themselves. I think it's some luck in the right festivals the first couple of years that we were coming over. And then, like I tell the bands that we take over and that supporting us, we paid attention. We kept coming. We didn't just go there and then not come back for 3 years, or come over and do 2 shows and then go to Europe, or this and this. We toured your country. And we still do. And I know we miss out on, sometimes we don't hit the South, or sometimes we don't hit here, sometimes we don't here. We do the best we can on that. But quite frankly, if you look back over our track record in the last, 4 or 5 years, we've been everywhere a couple of times,
Yeah.
so I think all of that lines it all up, and I think when we broke, pop punk being fairly a new thing there, we were sort of like one of the flagship pop punk bands for the United Kingdom. And I feel like people are proud of that, like, oh man, Bowling for Soup was coming over here when they were playing to like 3 people, and
Yeah.
but we kept coming, and and I love it. I love it. I love our tours over there so much. It's been it and it's increasingly easier. It feels like the world just gets smaller and smaller, because it used to be that we'd have to buy a cell phone over there. We'd have to top up our internet card, and
Mm.
there's so many things that we would have to do to be able to connect with home, and now none of that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
What's your favorite thing about coming over here that other than obviously playing the shows? I mean, bands tend to like going to Nando's. I know that's
Yeah.
something that they enjoy.
Well, we're fucked because my band don't like Nando's. I do. I think it's great, but my guys, I guess it just got too hyped. And so anyway, I tell them they're wrong all the time. But anyway, so we don't really go there.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
my favorite thing about the UK is 100%, as cliche as this sounds, the passion for music that people have in the United Kingdom is not like any other country in the world that we have been to. Just the fact that, you know, families save up to do their vacation at Download together and go to Download Festival and just share in this festival experience as a family. And, um, so many parents bringing their kids to gigs, and grandparents bringing their kids and kids to gigs, and friends that get together, and the only time they get together is to go to gigs. For that, this is super common actually, for like they met at a Bowling for Soup show 12, 15 years ago, and now every time we come to town, that's when they get together. They
Mm.
really rekindle that friendship. It's that passion. um it's that when we first started coming to the UK, I somebody would email me or MySpace me or whatever and go, my two favorite bands are Rage Against the Machine and Bowling for Soup. And almost in 2024 that might make sense, but man, in 2002 it didn't.
Yeah.
There at least in our world.
That's such
um
like a contrast of
It is,
sound
right?
and also
It is, but what's cool about the UK is it just we never experienced the clicks there. Like it just, you're allowed to like whatever you like,
yeah.
you know. And so, you know, people would get into, you know, well, like I said, those two bands. And so that's the reason we could play Download back in the day and go between Godhead and Anthrax, It's and then and definitely on our own there, but it went great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if we were to go over like everything that you do outside of Bowling for Soup, I think we'd be here all day. But for
Yeah.
for people who don't know, you do a bit of voice acting. I think you
Yeah.
did the voice for Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, I'm the voice of Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
I'm on the show Phineas and Ferb,
Yeah, you're
as a
Danny, aren't
character.
you?
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that? And I
Danny
played
from
Danny.
Phineas and Ferb,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I Yeah, I've got a podcast called Rockstar Dad Show. I I'm a songwriter. I don't There's a lot of things that I've stopped doing. I've stopped really outside producing, outside writing. I don't really direct videos anymore. Um, but I tend to stay super busy between, and now I've got the country band
Mm.
going for super busy. So those things keep me really, really busy. There was a time before COVID where I had about 15 things I could list. And I just decided, man, I got to start spending my time, because a lot of them were passion projects.
Yeah.
It's like, man, if I'm not doing something that I love, then it should, that I absolutely love and can't live without, then it should be something that provides for my family, or I need to be with my family, you know?
Yeah.
And so I stopped doing quite a few of those things that were just like sort of throwing the dice on the table and seeing if it would work. And that's worked out. That's worked out good. I've been liking really being to hyper focus on the 5 or 6 things that I do.
Yeah. Do you do that kind of, have you done that same thing with features as well? I know you obviously have done a lot of features over the years, like you've
Yeah.
done work with like MC Lars, and then I think more recently you did a feature with the band Mest and also Chin Up Kid.
Yeah, and I've had to kind of curve that too. And
Yeah.
honestly, the reason I've kind of slowed down on the features was I was doing them during lockdown. I would just say yes to whatever, and then I got to where I was just letting people down. Like it just takes me so long to be able to get to it, and people are on a schedule, and I don't like people waiting on me. Um, and so yeah, that's the other thing. I also have a Patreon that takes a lot of my time, which includes my live show on the internet every month.
Mm.
And so that's a whole nother thing. And then, yeah, it's kind of not, there's probably 4 more things that I'm forgetting actually. But yeah, I mean, it's all for the greater good.
Yeah. Yeah. I also learned the other day that you worked on the, is it Sonic Unleashed album? That video
Yeah.
game?
Yeah, I did the theme song for Sonic Unleashed. And I can't really say much about it, but all I can say is that those who have been waiting for a version that you can stream might not have to wait very much longer.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you spoke about the country project as well. I know you put a new song called Lone Stars out not too long ago.
Mhm.
What's going on with the country solo project? Have you got new material in the works?
Yeah, lots of new songs. Was gonna try to release an album at the end of May, but I don't think I'm gonna make it. I think I just need a little bit more time, uh, just because of how busy everything else has been. So yeah, but we're playing in between Bowling for Soup tours and lots of shows and just trying to build it organically. The other thing that I didn't say is man, social media is a full-time job. I mean,
It
that's
really
another
is.
like I mean, just making sure that I'm doing TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and shorts. I mean, that's a big part of my day. Um, and so I think that's sort of taken over where a lot of those things that I don't do anymore,
Hmm.
time wise, that's what it is. But I mean, I see the benefit in it. I definitely see that people come to the shows and because they follow me on TikTok or whatever. It's a good way to at least try and get in touch with people.
Yeah. What's it been like being the gateway artist for pop punk fans to get into country?
You know what? That's a very nice thing to say. I mean, I love it, but I can't take full credit for that because, there's been a lot of guys that have done country stuff. Social Distortion did a country album and
Hmm.
but just the reaction has been so great. And the biggest thing that I'm surprised about is the reaction in the UK because I know country is really starting to catch on there. Um, but it has been I've had way less just negativity from the UK than I have from the States because in the States, I've just had a bunch of people like, you're not country. I'm not going to listen to it. Go fuck yourself. I love Bowling for Soup. And, but it's like in the UK, it's like, yeah, I like a bit of country. I'll give it a shot,
Yeah.
and it's been really nice. So, now, I'm sort of general country in the UK. Here, I'm really focused more on what's called Texas country, red dirt. So it's a niche. And, so it's a bit of a fight to get established in that. So, there's some gatekeepers out there that I've had to deal with. But as far as the fans are concerned, you can never expect 100% of people to follow you at everything you do.
True.
I mean, I've proved that with people on vacation and Jaret and Kelly and Jarinus. Um, you can just hope that enough people give you a chance that it gives you a little bit of something to jump off of. And it certainly has been the case with the country thing. It's been a great start.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to 'cause country's not as big here in the UK as it is over there? For people listening who enjoy your country album and want to explore the genre more, what would you suggest?
Well, I would suggest, yeah, I mean, there's so many great bands out there and artists out there that are doing it. I'm gonna make a playlist and put it out before this comes out. So go to Jaret Reddick on Spotify, and I'm gonna make you a playlist of stuff you should hear.
Right.
And it's out now.
In the future, but now, yes.
In the future, but now.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, dude. What other plans have you got for 2024? Obviously, lots and lots and lots of touring.
Lots of touring. I've got a few trips planned with my family in between. My wife and I are going to try and get something on the calendar, just she and I. But lots of band stuff, both bands. Lots of new music, and really looking forward to getting out there and playing this record.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for your time, as always. Really appreciate talking to you. Before I let you go, any final words, anything you want to say or plug? Floor's yours.
Guys, follow me on TikTok, Jaret Reddick. I'm everywhere else at JARET2113. Of course, you can go to bowlingforsoup.com and figure out where I am. And I'd love to see you guys out on the road. There's more stuff coming, no matter where you live. We have so much all waiting in the wings. It's like it's like a never-ending line of awesome. And I can't wait to see you guys out there.
Awesome, man. Thanks again. Take care of yourself, and yeah, speak soon.
Thanks, Zach. Take care, brother.
See you later, man. Bye. And that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in to It's Not a Phase. If you enjoyed this episode, then don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Leave a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Follow the podcast on social media, and maybe even join the Patreon or grab some merch from the store. You can find everything that you need at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Thanks again. Hopefully catch you on the next one. And remember, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle.